Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Bernadowitz, and I'm here to talk to you today about the role of a career counselor. Now, I'm going to speak freely and candidly during this presentation because I believe it is significant that you understand the goals, philosophies, and practices surrounding this occupation in a concise, easy to digest way. Some of you may already be interested in this career path or could apply some of the elements found in the evidence-based practices we will be going over in your own work setting. A career counselor or career coach is someone who assists clients in working through the challenges in organizational settings. This can include topics such as promotions, interviewing techniques, resume building, or simply choosing a career. The career counselor helps the client navigate these difficulties and assists in achieving their short-term and long-term occupational goals. It is important to remember, however, that the career counselors are non-clinical positions, as they should avoid diagnosing mental health issues or attempt to provide clinical treatment, as this violates the code of ethics and extends beyond the scope and competence of their position. In these cases, referrals should be made to third-party clinical professionals so that the client can receive appropriate assistance and care for their needs. Ignoring referrals or attempting to apply clinical treatment can potentially harm the client and dissolve the counselor-client trust and relationship. Moving on, and as previously mentioned, one of the primary elements of the career counselor is helping the client identify and achieve their desired organizational goals. We facilitate this by using two common evidence-based coaching strategy models. First, the SMART goal setting model, and the GROW model. And in this presentation, I would like to cover both of these. So here we go. All right, the SMART goal setting model. Okay, so the SMART goal setting model. What is it? How does it work? And what is its relevance? Why is it important? Well, the SMART goal setting model is an effective strategy used by career counselors to pinpoint specific occupational goals as desired by the client and provides a structured plan that progresses through stages of development for goal achievement. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So if you can imagine with me that an individual or even you yourself wishes to make a career change and choose a new vocation. So that will be our premise, achieving a new career. That is our goal. That is the summit of this exercise. So our fundamental goal, finding and choosing a new career. So keeping that in mind, let's work through the stages, beginning with the S, which is specific. In the first stage, we need to identify specifically a narrow, focused, and detail-oriented values within our goal setting here. You want a new job. All right, great. But what specific job do you have in mind? These are some of the questions that should arise. What role do you see yourself obtaining within the chosen organization? What is a desirable salary for this position? Are there any prerequisite certifications or degrees that would preclude you from applying for the job? On this stage, we focus career choice identification and all the minutiae of the particulars that go into that. Next is the measurable stage. In other words, how can we measure or track our progress? This means developing a criterion of sub-goals to help achieve the ultimate goal of obtaining new employment. This can look like, for example, setting weekly or monthly short-term goals, such as applying to 3 or 4 job openings per week or completing credit hours to finish a specific degree program at a local university to bolster marketability. Sometimes we have to take small, reasonable steps over time in order to achieve more enduring long-term goal outcomes. Moving on is achievable. It is important that the career counselor and the client determine that the aforementioned goals are, in fact, tenable and realistic to accomplish. So during this phase, what we want to ask ourselves is, are the goals realistic to the client's current level of skill? So, for example, and this may be somewhat extreme, but imagine a client in nursing who chooses to become a licensed practicing physician, but wishes to begin next year. Well, this is a tall order and by all means unrealistic. However, we should never discourage such lofty career goals that can, in fact, be achieved through dedicated work, but the client needs to be aware of the time commitments and educational requirements before deciding to take on that challenge. So this leads us to the next stage, relevance. In this stage, the career counselor needs to evaluate the relevance of each goal and sub-goal. Do the identified and established goals align with the overall success and acquisition of obtaining a new career in the medical profession? Well, in our case, applying to medical school and receiving the prerequisite eligibility certifications or degrees are relevant and actually, in fact, necessary. Although perhaps the timelines may need adjusting. Which brings us to our final stage, time-bound. It is important to establish a time frame by which the goals are to be accomplished. In other words, deadlines need to be created for each goal. And for example, perhaps the client wants to begin their educational requirements at a local college. We can set a deadline to, begin next semester. That would be a time-bound goal. We're setting a limit and sticking to our times. Or for more long-term outcomes, perhaps setting a 5-year goal to totally complete medical school. These time-bound values, this helps reduce potential procrastination and fosters forward movement toward successful outcomes. Next is the GROW model. So beyond the SMART goal setting model is the GROW model. This strategy is more of a broad coaching philosophy that moves between stages malleably and is less rigid than the SMART goal setting model. It is another acronym that stands for goal, reality, options, and will, or way forward. Similar to its coaching model counterpart, the SMART goal setting model, the first stage begins with establishing a realistic goal, actually in which the SMART goal setting model is embedded. So in the GROW model, that the first goal value here, we actually apply the SMART goal setting model just in the first domain of the goal of the GROW model. So yes, it begins by establishing a realistic goal. Following this, the reality stage is a reflective exercise whereby the client explores their current situation and potential challenges to help build self-awareness, and it helps build situational bearing. Next is the option stage. In this phase, the counselor and the client attempt to co-develop potential options for achieving the specified goal and considering solutions for success. The final stage is the will or the way forward stage. During this stage, the counselor assists the client in establishing the steps necessary to fully realize their plans and commit to a time frame. Again, this model differs from other strategies as it is intended to freely move between the stages until the client is confident in their co-developed plans and ready to commit to their solutions for maximum effectiveness. Okay, so in summary, so the career counselor assists individuals in achieving their unique career and organizational desires through a counselor-client relationship. Strategies such as the SMART goal setting model and the GROW model that we went over can help counselors and the client co-develop a plan for goal and outcome identification and achievement by following the prescribed stages as outlined by these models. Again, it is important to reiterate that career counselors and coaches are non-clinical professionals, which means they should never attempt to diagnose a client or attempt to treat any potential abnormal psychopathologies, but rather assist through advising and handing off referrals to clinical providers when necessary. So, This ends the presentation. I hope it was informative and perhaps even helps inspire you to gain additional knowledge into the occupation and evidence-based practices used in the counseling and coaching services. Thank you. And here are the references.